Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I always see people having difficulty with whenever they're talking about traveling for a long time or maybe even a short time, depending upon what they have. And that is what to do with your cell phone. How do you get data service? How do you get texting? If you're going to be going long term, how do you get set up? Because two-factor authentication is becoming such a huge part of how we keep ourselves secure in today's world, and it's only going to get worse. So, um, obviously, most two-factor authentication today sends you a text with a code that you then re-enter in. They base at that point they're at least making sure that you have a phone with you that you have previously designated as an important thing. But it even goes deeper than that. This whole idea. Most of us have a data service. I mean, the biggest ones are T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. If you have one of those, odds are, if you travel international, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to have data, voice, texting, all of that while you travel overseas or even just down to Mexico or Canada. Some of them will give you Mexico or Canada because of the North American numbering plan stuff. Um, but it's always better to know rather than to have go into it and then get a very bad surprise in your phone bill because companies have stopped being quite as uh, forgiving when it comes to how you handle your international usage. Uh, 20 years ago, the company I worked for had a guy that went international. No one really knew what was going on. He turned his stuff on roaming. By the time he got home, a little over a week later, he had racked up over $2,500 worth of international data roaming, and AT&T wrote off all but like 150 bucks of it. So that was a good thing back then. Today, they kind of expect you're going to know what you're doing. So, how do you get international data? If you watch many of the channels about traveling the world, a lot of them are talking about Airalo. Airalo is an international uh, data eSIM company. So with it, you can get eSIMs from all over the world. You can and have them ready for when you land. So you can, hey, I'm going to be going to Monaco next week. I'm going to go ahead and get uh, Monaco set up with an eSIM or get Europe set up as an eSIM. And then that way it will work whenever I land. Everything should be good within just a few seconds. At least at that point, you have data. But that doesn't take care of two factor authentication. That doesn't take care of texting for people. Unfortunately, two factor authentication doesn't allow the usage of things like WhatsApp, which would be a really nice thing because it would just eliminate 90% of the problem. If everyone used WhatsApp, then you would have a whole lot less issue because everything, every part of it goes over data. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I went about doing a test run getting Airalo, and then how I would put uh, texting onto my phone so that it would work. And I could also make phone calls. Uh, and that's through the use of a company called Tello. So here is, if you go to the website for, if you go to the website for uh, Airalo, this is what it looks like. And so if you go in, you'll see that you have the ability to type in Asia. Okay, I want to look at everything here. Asia would be um, 18 countries, and it'll tell you what those countries are. So if you're going to make a run about multiple countries, or even if you're going to land in airports at multiple countries, you might need to add something along this line. They have a bunch of regional SIMs. they've got the Caribbean islands, they've got North America, they have Oceania, which of course that's primarily Australia and New Zealand. Um, this is showing the area right now in uh, this is showing the area right now in, why is this doing this? Hold on. I am not sure why I am not seeing the whole screen, and it might become a problem. Um, later it fixes itself. Okay. Um, so we'll go back to here and I'll show you um, the different countries here that are in this. Now, just so everyone knows, I have already done this. I have already bought my eSIMs and I have already put it on. So your what you will see would be slightly different than this. But point being, this is a very inexpensive way to go. For 30 days in the US, for 3 gig, you can get it for $9. Depending upon what you are utilizing, you can get your secure checkout. You can pay for it with PayPal. If you run out of data, you can top it off. If you don't run out of data, it'll expire in 30 days. You can make it to where it'll auto renew. You can make it to where it'll auto top off. I would suggest not doing that because if you lose control, you have nothing to stop it from continuing to go out of control. Um, so you're going to see that I bought an eSIM. I actually bought two on accident because it came up and showed me an error. And so I did it again. And by the time I went through it again, it had said that I had bought two. Fortunately, Airalo gave me a second chance, or gave me a refund on it. Um, what you're One thing that you're going to need here is you're going to need an unlocked phone. And you can say, hey, I have an Android, I have an Apple device, etc. One thing I'm going to say right now, in the upper right hand corner, you'll see the R icon. That is Rakuten. If you aren't using it in your just normal day to day, you're missing out on the opportunity of saving some money. It is, I have gotten checks, monthly checks for anywhere from 39 cents up to $250 because of getting percent back. You can get up to 10% back for IHG hotels. What this is showing you right now is the QR code. So you would use your phone, which I will demonstrate a little later, and you would hold it over that QR code and it will pop up the little thing, just like if you use a QR code to see a menu at a restaurant. You tap it. While you're doing the setup, you need to have Wi-Fi on your cell phone. You can't just do it from nothing. It's probably also easier if you're using the website on a computer. So I have now gone to Tello and showing you the different options that you have available. So they have a no data plan. Tello is a United States carrier. So since we're going to use Airalo for our data, we have no reason for Tello. Because we can buy Airalo SIMs from all over the world, we cannot do that with Tello. So what the ultimate thing on this is you're going to go with no data, 100 minutes on your plan. By the way, you're going to see this phone number, which I tried to blur out, and I realized I was never going to get it completely blurred out. And so with that, I have already canceled this service because I did not want people to be able to scam that number. But just know that number is no longer valid. So please don't do it. If you're doing that, you're messing with someone who's not me. But you'll see an eSIM number. You go through, you would activate it. Again, I've already done this, so your mileage will vary a little bit on Tello, but when I first paid for it, it immediately said activation information, and then it popped up a QR code very similar to what you saw on Airalo's site. So you've got your terms and conditions, your different notes and things, but what's going to happen is you're going to use Airalo for data. And Tello on the phone is going to think that your Airalo eSIM is Wi-Fi. It will still work for messaging, across data because you will turn on Wi-Fi calling, Wi-Fi texting, and Tello supports that. And as long as you have a phone that does eSIMs, which is probably almost everything since 2018, as well as your SIMs from the, uh, uh, if you have all of those things out there, you have all those SIMs going, and you can have a whole lot of them. That's the beautiful thing about an eSIM is that you're not using a little card to keep your phone running. You are running your phone with these little electronic SIMs, and you can activate them and deactivate them at will. So Tello has a lot of different options, and if you're in the United States, it might even be a plan that you could utilize to get unlimited talk, texting, and data for 30-40 bucks. I probably wouldn't do that just simply because I like a lot of other options. And personally, right now, since we're not traveling the world full time, my wife and I both have Google Fi. And the advantage of Google Fi over something like this is that it just works. I have one plan. Every time we go land in a new country, it'll say, please wait while we get this set. And 2-3 minutes later, you have everything functional. So, oh, and you'll notice that Tello also has something with Rakuten available. So you can get a little bit of cash back for your spend. You will have to pay $3 for a Tello eSIM. I don't really understand why they charge for an eSIM since it's electronic, but in total, your cost is going to be $12.30. Blurred out my personal information there, and you can pay for this with PayPal as well. So now we're going to go and look at it like from a phone. So what that was the Airalo site with the phone on the computer, and just like getting to a menu, you put the phone on it and it sees the QR code and it brings up a little link at the bottom. You click it and it'll start adding the Airalo eSIM. Now notice it says that it's an Airalo eSIM here. And whenever it completes, it's going to pop you in, and for whatever reason, it tells you that it's Airalo, but it makes the SIM name eSIM1. Now, this is all done on a Samsung Galaxy S24, so your mileage may vary. I'm going to go back just a touch here. I want to show you right here. I clicked on Add eSIM. That was not the correct way to do this. The correct way to do this was to go to the Tello site, go to my camera on the phone, and go ahead and see the QR code. The add eSIM is really going to be more of like a manual process, or if you have a download, you could import it in that way. That is, and you'll also see Airalo does not have a phone number associated with it. It's simply data. And all of us will kind of have an idea of how much data we use. Whenever you travel, things change. Some people use a lot more, some people use a lot less. Doing simple things like downloading Google Maps before you leave while you're on Wi-Fi, or be on Wi-Fi and download the local maps for everywhere you're going to be, will save you gigs of data of it pulling up maps while you're going. Anyway, I'm going to let this go ahead and move forward a little bit here, and you'll see the add eSIM was incorrect, and I will correct that by going out and looking at the camera. It'll at the bottom. Let me go back and show you what that said. So add plan to phone is what it says while it's trying to pull while it's looking at the QR code on the Tello site. Again, this is the phone number that's associated with that Tello account, which has already been canceled off. So if you look at, it's going to go ahead and add the SIM information. Again, adding a Tello eSIM. And this takes 45 seconds, maybe. Probably not even that in total. And then once it comes up, you will see that there are two eSIMs. The phone is a loaner, and that someone had that is unlocked. And I'll prove that it's unlocked here in a moment. Also, just so you know, I have had to trim a lot of this video out, and I've also had to blur a lot of things out. Okay, when you edit the SIM names and icons, you have eSIM 1, eSIM 2. And notice they say unknown, unknown. Here in a minute, one of them's going to say Airalo. There you go. I'm not sure why there was a delay here, but if you click the little pencil icon next to eSIM 1, it'll allow you to change the name of that to, oh, now that that's active, you're starting to get text messages from Tello, which is pretty cool. But we're also on Wi-Fi, my home Wi-Fi at this moment. So if you click on the little pencil next to eSIM 1, you can change the name. Since I only have one, I'm going to change the name of this to Airalo. And it's Airalo. And none of this is sponsored. They're not paying a dime. They don't know I'm making this video. This is primarily to help people get through a technical issue that people always have. Again, you'll see all of this. Primary SIM. I would personally think Airalo should be the primary SIM because it's handling a lot, but Tello needs to be your primary because it is where you're going to try to send out SMS messages and phone calls. Data is a failover, so you're going to use Tello as your primary. Airalo will be your secondary, and notice down there at the bottom, on this phone, data switching was deactivated, was turned off. Again, here's the phone number. That doesn't work anymore. But going through the SIM manager, there's a few settings, and we'll go through all of those settings. Data switching, while I was doing this, I turned it on. I will turn it off here in a moment. Whenever you go through various options, you click on it, and it'll allow you to be able to turn it off. And again, you'll see some of these blurs on telephone numbers, and that was my first pass trying to get rid of the phone number, and I just realized it is really hard to eliminate phone numbers off of your phone because particularly on a Galaxy, it will put them everywhere. You'll see later whenever I make test emails or test texts and a call that it's going everywhere. And I have blurs that are going all over to a point that sometimes it's hard to understand the screen. But data switching, here's where I turn this off. And it says switch to another SIM for mobile data. You don't want it doing it all the time because it'll go back and forth. Airalo is your service provider. Tello will be your service provider as well. Both of these will work in tandem. Total cost I spent for 3 gig for a month, 100 minutes of voice, unlimited texting was $20. And it will be less over time. So it's a very good deal considering a lot of things make you pay $10 a day, $15 a day. I'm kind of going through network unlock at the bottom. This is just proving that the phone is unlocked. And it's about this time, you won't see it on the screen. Okay, data roaming, you do want to turn that on for Airalo. You want to turn it off for Tello. And I turned off the allow 2G service for Tello. I don't want it to utilize Tello or even attempt to use Tello for data. The network mode, if it's going to use one, make it use 5G as it's preferred, but turn off everything that does data with Tello because you didn't buy any data. Not having roaming will help a lot on that regard. So now you're going to go in. I have made those settings. And about this time, I turn off Wi-Fi on the phone, and I don't show that. That ended up getting cut. And you will also see that there's a I have David test. For whatever reason, whenever I was typing things in, I fat fingered my phone number, and I had a interesting situation where my uh, I I kept trying to text the wrong number. It was very close to my number, and so I'm trying various things here. At that point, I was adding +1, not realizing if this was going to have to utilize the plus the country code portion. I was unfamiliar with Tello at this point. Now, one thing to note, Tello is not the end all be all. If you like group texting, you will need to use something along the lines of WhatsApp. WhatsApp will do that better. Uh, I was unable to get MMS, so sending graphics, sending other things through, I was unable to get that to work. From a phone perspective, I made a phone call, everything worked great. Uh, I had my test call. I don't have it to where you can hear it, but you'll see that it's active at the top and has been active for 5 seconds, 6 seconds. I'm sitting here talking, so you ended up with a lot of uh, feedback because both of them were on speaker, and well, we've all heard those kinds of phone calls. I only ran this for about 18, 20 seconds, and you'll see the ability to have this. So this worked really, really well for me. I cannot go over every little detail with every little phone. I do understand that this works very similarly on Apple devices. I am not an Apple guy, but this is a very good, inexpensive way of of being able to move forward. Another thing that you could do if you were going to travel international is you could buy two eSIMs. You could buy your Airalo. You don't even really have to buy your Tello, I don't think, but you could buy your Airalo, get your data, and then almost every service has Wi-Fi calling and texting. Turn off data roaming on your plan and turn on your Airalo app for data. It may work. You may be able to utilize the same way that you did with Tello. Another few things. One, you can keep your phone number if you wished. If you were going to go full-time travel, you could port your phone number to Tello. There are a few restrictions. Some people have to jump through some hoops to make that work, but you can port that phone over. A lot of people are very tied to their phone number, and I understand that. All your family, all your friends, everyone has it. But for me, there's a whole lot of people that whenever I change away from my work life, that frankly, I don't have any reason for them to have my number anymore. So my plan at this time is whenever I go international, full time travel, which is still something that Sarah and I hope to accomplish. When that happens, I am going to change my number. Sarah probably will probably try to port hers. I don't really care. I'm not tied to my phone number. I can send out a text message to everyone before I make my change saying, "Hey everybody, just so you know, I'm changing my phone number. Please update your contact." That way only the people I really care to know it. Then I would have to go into all of my banks, all into everything that utilizes two-factor authentication. I would have to go and make those changes. So I will have a list of things. I'm a pretty organized person when it comes to things of that nature. I have all of my accounts into a Google Sheet. I would have every single thing that is in there. Does this one use 2FA? If so, then I would know I need to go in there and make a change. There are also other ways of doing two-factor authentication. You can use authenticator apps, things of that nature. Um, back to Airalo and Tello. They both have local apps that you can put on your phone. Airalo will help you, will you can look and see how much data you have used or how much you have left on your eSIM. And Tello will tell you, hey, you've used 1 minute of your 100 minutes of calling. It obviously won't keep tabs on your texts other than it'll tell you that you have had these in your history. Both of them are worth having on your phone if these are services that you are going to utilize. There may be other solutions. I'm not saying that this is the best. Airalo is probably the most popular data eSIM because it's so easy to get a SIM that's basically ready for you the moment that you start going on. Um, the moment you land in Hong Kong, you can have your eSIM working. And that's a nice peace of mind thing for a lot of people, myself included. As of right now, I'm just going to maintain what I have with Google Fi. It will work fine until I'm going to be out of the country for 3 months or more. Some people say that it works for them for up to 6. It just depends. I kind of think it's your mileage may vary. You're good up to 3. Google doesn't want to have to pay international companies as much. They have all these deals with companies like T-Mobile in the US, which are a good deal for them. And so they don't want to pay more than you're giving them. But for today, while we're going around, Google Fi works fantastic for Sarah and I. We have great coverage. We've never really had a situation where we had no data and people around us had data, which used to be a real big problem for a lot of different carriers. We've not experienced that. In the US, it uses T-Mobile, which is currently the best cellular network out there. Now, as I said before, a lot of you may have a company that you've used forever for your cell phone. Don't be married to them. There is absolutely no loyalty of them to you. Why should you have loyalty to them? Go for what is going to work best for you. Think about whether or not you need to keep your, and also if you wanted to keep if you're going to Asia and you're 12 hours different, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of texts and calls during the day while you're in Asia. Those are going to happen at night when you're back at your hotel room and you have Wi-Fi available. So you very likely could get away with just buying an Airalo, turn it on whenever you're going to leave the hotel. That way you have your data, you have everything you want to go there, and then whenever you get back to your hotel, you turn on your Wi-Fi for the hotel or your travel router or whatever you're using. And then once you do that, then your texts and everything from AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon should all come in. But make sure that you turn data roaming off. When it comes to cruise ships, I have never been on a cruise. I have only seen a few things that are out there that are people talk about how good Google Fi is for cruising because it won't go into roaming onto their cellular network. And you just keep your phone working. And then whenever you get into port and all of a sudden you can hit a different cellular network, it'll start functioning. Again, your mileage may vary. Do your own homework. This is not necessarily a how-to guide as much as there is a lot of information out there that you can utilize. I would strongly recommend that you do your homework before you leave. Airalo looks to be a really good option. Tello looks to be a reasonable option for two-factor authentication. I hope that this has been beneficial to you. This is a little different from most of our other content, and we haven't made a lot of content lately, but we are hopefully going to be posting a lot more soon. In the meantime, hope you all are doing well. And if you have any comments, if you've tried anything else, something else is working well for you, you've tried these options and they don't work well, put them in the comments. This is a way for all of us to learn. So have a good day. Take care, everyone, and happy travels.